This training session is in the area of shipping, and it deals with the assembling mixed loads for shipment. The first step is to go to the sales directory, and from your order directory, which is blank in this particular sample, click the trucking button clear at the bottom center of the screen. In this area, go to, first we're going to, looking at our submenu, there is another section that discusses entering trucking companies. So theoretically you've already entered trucking companies and they're in place at this point. Our next step is to assign the load drops. So when we're assembling mixed loads, we want to assemble which loads are going to be assembled together and going to go together on the same load. The first step is to create a truck ID. This is a number automatically assigned by the computer. So truck number 1 we're going to call, let's just call it New York Load 1. We can name it absolutely anything that makes sense to you. So this won't be shown to the customer in any way. It's just something for you to reference this particular load. You also might put the date on it. So if we decided, well, whatever you wanted to do at this point. Now, normally, you don't know the carrier or the driver or anything yet. At this point, all we know is that we want to assemble a load when we're trying to decide which partials we can put together. This section is a list of all partials that are currently not assigned to a load. So if we go to this area and scroll to the right, notice that we've got invoice numbers, we've got ship dates. Normally I would be looking at these ship dates. If I don't have a ship date, then I can't know when it's going to go. I would be looking for material that is going to go out about the same time, in the same area, so that I can put them on the same load. The other thing I want to look at is my freight factor will tell me about how many estimated feet I have on the load. So for example, this 64 feet on this load is going to be a truck and a half. So that particular one, I'm going to have one full truck on that one, and this one is several trucks. But this 4-foot load does need to be mixed with several other items. So we're going to assume that we have filtered this and that all of these ones that I'm going to choose, these smaller loads, do have ship dates and they want to go at about the same time. So that's something that you're just going to have to go through here and sort of pick out. Do these companies, are they in the same area? Will they likely go at the same time? So I'm going to say that this little 4-foot load is going to be my drop number 1. It's going to get loaded onto the truck last because it's going to be first off. But as soon as I assign it drop 1, notice that my truck ID 1 is automatically assigned. Down at the bottom, it says that my freight factor is 1, and I now have 4 feet on this load. At this point now, I think I'll go put this 7-foot item on there too. So let's make that one drop 2, and let's make this one drop 3. And notice at the bottom, as I continue to click, now I've got 29 feet on this load. If I bring in this 13-foot load here as drop 4, I'm now at 42 feet. So I need to look at the material. If a 40-foot van is going to work, I may be able to make this work. I may also decide that I'm going to take this one out of the mix, and then I'm going to make this drop 1, 2, and 3, and now I've got 38 feet. So I have a truck that's not quite full. So you can sort of decide for yourself, you know, what's best in your company, how you're going to fill up this truck and not fill up this truck. So at this point, I have assigned these 3 drops, and they're going to be loaded on the computer or on the truck in that fashion. Then I'll go to my reports. The first 3 reports, the load assignment worksheets, are essentially printouts that tell you what needs to be assigned. If you're the type of person that likes to take this list of loads that need to be assigned and go off at a table and get a cup of coffee and sit down and go through it, this is what you print out. If you'd rather work at the computer like we're doing now, then you can skip these reports and not bother. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to ask for a truck transport request for quote. So what that means is that I've got these 3 loads and I want to assemble it, and I'd like a trucker to give me a quote. what I get on my, I'm going to make this a little bigger so that you can see it. At this point, it's sample nursery data, and it tells me a little bit about these drops and how many feet are on, but it doesn't give phone numbers and it doesn't give a lot of information. It does request price information here, and it asks for the trucker to sign it. So what I would do with this is I would print this particular report out and then fax it out to a number of trucking companies and wait for them to send back information to me that would tell me what their prices are. At the point that I'm ready to accept one of these quotes, I would then go to the carrier, and let's assume that Atlas Trucking Company, the one we were looking at before, was the one that delivered the best quote. We've put Atlas Trucking Company in there. We know what their phone and fax number is. We won't know the driver till he shows up. We may have some driver notes that we want to put in, and we probably, before we sent out this request for quote, we might have told him here that we need a reefer or we need a flat. This is where you're going to tell him what equipment you need before you send this request for quote. But now that I've gotten my request for quote back and I've accepted this information, I'm going to go ahead at this point now and then put a truck transport confirmation. So now Atlas Trucking Company is listed at the top with their phone number, and I'm going to send him this confirmation notice. Now he has phone numbers and detailed information about the drops, and I've probably written in the information here that he quoted so that this can be signed, and we now have an agreement with the trucking company. So at this point, I've got a trucking company lined up, so we're pretty much ready to go. There are some other utilities that you can play with a little bit here. They're truck loading diagrams and so on. When I'm ready to run my bills of lading and my trucker's drop schedule, for example, these are reports that you would run for the trucker. So for example, the trucker's drop schedule, this tells him drop this load first. This is drop 1. It'll be the one, your load list will instruct your loading crew to put this one on last. So they'll be loaded in reverse order. But this tells the trucker what to do as you're building your load packet. You can get whatever reports that you need to help build the trucker's load packet to be put in this drop-down list of reports. There are loading diagrams, several examples of bills of lading that you can then run. These will be entirely up to you, and we can work with you individually on creating the appropriate reports. If you need to work on distributing freight, there is a freight distribution screen here, and we'll talk about how to fill this out at a later time in a different training session. If you would like to review loads, now let's suppose you've created a number of loads. Let's suppose you've got 20 loads already created. You'd like to go have a look at them. You have this load review button, and the load review button is exactly the same thing as this review load assignments button from the menu. If I click this, I would have all my trucks listed here, and as I move the cursor down, the loads would be listed down below, and I could at that point then have a glance at how things all line out with all my trucks. So this allows you to get a bird's eye view of exactly what's happening. You then have some reports. You can get a list of trucks scheduled by customer or by load date. So you have a trucking schedule that can be printed out and distributed to your shipping crews. So we'll leave it at that brief overview. Any more specific questions, just feel free to email us at ACS, and we'll help you with anything that's not obvious.